මාර්කඩ බඳු දළදා සමිඳු වැඳ අවසර ගන්නේ උතුම් පෙරහැර කරුණුන් වහන්සේ ගද තේජසින් යුතුව වැඩම වීමට පින් ලැබෙති වන්දාමි සාදු මමලං ජිනදන්ත ධාතුන්.
ඔබ සැමට උතුම් දළදා සමිඳු සරණයි. ඓතිහාසික කන්ද උඩරට ඇසළ පෙරහැර මහා මංගල්‍යයේ තෙවන කුඹල් පෙරහැර වීදි සංචාරය කිරීම සඳහා සියලු කටයුතු සූදානම්. පරම පවිත්‍ර වූ උතුම් වාමශ්‍රී දළදා වහන්සේ උදෙසා වාර්ෂිකව පවත්වන පෙරහැර මංගල්‍යයේ තෙවන කුඹල් පෙරහැර වීදි සංචාරය කිරීම සඳහා සියලු කටයුතු සූදානම් වෙන්නේ මස්ලතු අස්කිරුබේ මහා විහාරීය මහා නායක මාහිම්පාණන් වහන්සේලාගේ අවවාද අනුශාසනා පෙරදරිව ශ්‍රී දළදා මාලිගාවේ ගරු දේවන් නිලමේතුමන් සිව් මහා දේවාලයන්හි බස්නායක නිලමේතුමන්ගේ සංවිධායක දායකත්වයෙන් විශේෂයෙන් වෙනදා මෙන් මේ පෙරහැර මංගල්‍යයේ අසිරිය අත්විඳින්නට නුවර වීදි වලට රැස් වී මේ කොප්පරා පන්දම් එළියෙන් දිදුලන මේ මහර්ග පෙරහැරේ අසිරිය ඔබට අත්විඳින්නට මේවර අවස්ථාවක් ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ රටේ පවතින සෞඛ්‍ය ගැටලුව හේතුව නිසාවෙන්. නමුත් විද්‍යුත් මාධ්‍ය ඔස්සේ, රූපවාහිනී මාධ්‍ය ඔස්සේ, අන්තර්ජාලය ඔස්සේ ඔබට පුළුවන් මේ පෙරහැර මංගල්‍යයේ අසිරිය නිවසේ සිට අත්විඳින්නට. උතුම් දළදා හාමුදුරුවන් කෙරෙහි පවත්නා වූ භක්තිය නිවසේ සිට වඩවාගෙන මේ පෙරහැර මංගල්‍යයේ අසිරිය ඔබට අත්විඳින්න පුළුවන්. අපි සජීවීව සම්බන්ධ වෙනවා ඓතිහාසික කන්ද උඩරට ඇසළ පෙරහැර මහා මංගල්‍යයේ තෙවන කුඹල් පෙරහැරේ අසිරිය සමගින්.
The third Kumbal Perahera brought to you by the Media Bureau of Sri Dalada Maligawa.
You are seeing Perahera officials obtaining permission and blessings of the Devalia Nilame before commencing their street perambulations.
Making his way from the upper chamber to the lower chamber, the Devalia Nilame is handing over the keys. And now you can see Chief Prelate of the Malwatta Mahaviharya, Venerable Tibbotuave Sri Medankara Thero, carrying the sacred tooth relic to be mounted on the royal tusker.
Placed within the Ranhilke mounted on the adorned tusker who will light up the third Kumbal Perahera.
Marking the beginning of the Kandy Esala Perahera dedicated to Lord Buddha, now we see the Perahera officials offering flowers and garlands to the Perahera casket.
This is the devout moment when the great tusker steps majestically down from the Mahavahalkada to the Sandagala in preparation to walk the streets of the city.
The blessings of this sacred tooth relic, let there be timely rains and may our country prosper. Now you can see a bird eye view of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, where the third Kumbal Perahera is commencing to walk the streets of the hill capital.
Now we can see a group of whip wielders.
In fact, this team of whip wielders was trained by Mr. Upali Jayaratna. The duty of the whip master is to clear the way for the holy Perahera casket. In single file, they wield their whips to notify the citizens of the impending approach of the Bhupati or the king.
The whip has to be carefully manipulated without hurting their colleagues.
Although whip conjures up fear in most minds, the sight of the Perahera whip masters has the opposite effect, calming the populace, since they are the ones who clear the way for the holy Perahera casket to be carried to the streets of the hill capital.
In the time of the kings, the whip was an instrument of punishment, but this is not a duty of that nature. Here, the instrument is used to remove fear, create a sense of love and compassion among the people, and bring merit to them.
And also, the duty of these whip masters is a duty which is handed down from generation to generation of their clans. According to our traditions, Peraheras that do not have this pedigree are not even worth being called such.
Indeed, it should also be noted that the whip wielders signify the thundering effect before a rain.
And also, we are quite saddened by the sight of the empty streets alongside the Perahera, because on other days we can see thousands of people throwing coins when these whip wielders are making their way on the streets.
Just as lightning flashes across the skies, the Perahera too has its flashes of light whipping across the faces of the people lining the streets to watch the procession. This is the offering of fire to the gods to water the earth with timely rain.
Indeed, we can see a young troop of fire dancers making their mark in the third Kumbal Perahera. And this troop was trained by Mr. E.D. Tilakaratna.
The sun, moon, earth, universe, solar month, night and day are all cyclic, and the fire dancers highlight these universal cycles and how they burn and cool us in our life cycles.
These fire dancers are completely focused and immersed in their art, keeping their minds and bodies one-pointed as they create their cyclic patterns of fire. This is because the slightest inattention could result in disaster.
The dancers tame fire and give it as a Dalada offering, mindful of its part in cooking, protecting crops and chenas, and dispelling darkness.
The true transport of these dancers is seen when a large group of them perform simultaneously, merging their various fiery elements into a magnificent performance of fire dance.
The dancers are seen creating their paintings of fire across the night sky as they move in procession. For the children, it is a fire play, but for the experienced elders, it is a devout and committed fire dance.
The fiery life cycle of washing desire, ignorance and anger is highlighted by the chakras painted by the fire dancers. This tradition is also handed down from generation to generation, with individuals of all ages from very young to very old taking part in the display of this kingly heritage of their clans.
Following the fire dancers, we can see a group of Buddhist flag bearers making their way in the procession. And this is the group from Pallekele prison. They are the inmates from Pallekele prison.
Ahead of the Buddhist flag bearers, now we can see a national flag bearer, representing that this is a festival which represents the nation and also our religion. The sight of the Buddhist flag creates a sense of unreflecting joy on the part of the people viewing the Kandy Esala procession, reminding us that this is a celebration, devotion and offering to Lord Buddha.
The Buddhist flag was jointly designed by Mr. J.R.D. Silva and Colonel Henry Olcott to mark the revival of Buddhism in Ceylon. It was accepted as the International Buddhist flag in 1952 at the World Buddhist Congress.
The ceremonious procession is performed in adulation of the living Buddha as well as the paramita for the future Buddha.
The six-colored flag is displayed in ceremonious form to remind the people simply of the great scope and depth of the Buddha's Dhamma.
Indeed, the hexa-colored flag garlands the people with the six-colored radiation of light attributed to the Buddha, cooling them as nothing else possibly can.
The flag bearers create a sense of the unlimited compassion of the Buddha through the sacred Dalada tooth relic. The sight calms undisciplined, wayward minds and focuses them on a procession of love and the compassion radiating across the universe.
The white-clad flag bearers remind the people of the way of Buddha's Dhamma, impacts their lives and the way to obtain release from the cycle of life.
We can see how much devotion these prison inmates show.
Now we can see the sword carriers coming into sight in the third Kumbal Perahera. And they are from the Ritigala Vishuddhi Harbour troop. Coming into sight is the Perahera of the procession.
Leading the way is the leader himself, the chief tusker of the Sri Dalada Maligawa stables. This is Indiraja.
It is the norm of the procession that Perahera, or the leader of the procession, is the first person on the elephant back, and neither officials nor elephants are permitted to arrive before the Perahera.
Clad in white robes, the Perahera comes into view ceremoniously, carrying a secretarial scroll.
Talking about this scroll is encased in a round silver container as a part of traditions of the processions. This scroll is made of all leaves.
Following up that, now we can see a very energetic group of AVC players coming into our sight. In fact, this is the first AVC troop of today's Perahera.
In fact, this is the true beat of the Kandy Esala Perahera.
The AVC musical instruments include the double drums, trumpet, cymbals, budge horns, conches, and anklets as well.
showing the first troop of heavy drummers. Now we can see the Gajanayaka Nilame, Mr. Palida Jayawardena, mounted on a beautiful tusker.
And that beautiful tusker, all the way from the capital of Sri Lanka, is Raja, belonging to the chief incumbent of the Kotte Rajamahavihara, Venerable Alutnuwara Anuruddha Thero.
The Gajanayaka Nilame arrives as the royal official in charge of the king's troop of elephants, and it's a procession given to him directly by the king himself.
Following up, we can see the water carriers, the beetle dancers. The purpose of the beetle dancers is to welcome the witnesses, the people to watch and gain merits by watching the Perahera tradition.
Of course, in the same time as welcoming, it is a gesture of inviting the people to watch this beautiful pageant which is happening once a year.
Here the dancers are showing respect and they are also paying homage to sacred tooth relic as well as inviting general public to come and witness this.
In the times of the kings, it was very difficult to invite each and every citizen of the country to be a part of this devotional event and to weave the procession to their heart's content. Therefore, the beetle dancers symbolically invite all the people of the land to obtain merit by watching this procession.
A tradition all the way from the times of Venerable Valivita Sangaraja Thero, the first Buddhist flag of the Perahera to be taken on top of an elephant to symbolize that it's a truly Buddhist Perahera, and that was Banda belonging to the Honorable Devar Nilame Pradeep Nilangadala.
Following up, we can see the Charmander Dancers making their way.
Similar to the Charmander fans, Savarang dance use fans made of fine threads to send cooling breezes in devotion to the Perahera casket.
In ancient times, the king, his queen, and a selected group of officials were honored by being fanned. Since the living Buddha walks along the streets of the city in this procession, it is with great devotion that the dancers stylize their fanning in ordered columns.
It is said that in the days of yore, it was the tail of the Samara deer that lived in India that was used for this purpose.
It is an honor to welcome the latest addition to the Sri Dalada Maligawa stables on his very first Kumbal Perahera. This is Pulatisi Raja, gifted from Myanmar in the year 2017 by the Burmese Prime Minister Aung San Suu Kyi.
Draped in a white robe, he takes his strides majestically for the first time in the Esala Perahera in Sri Lankan history.
up, we can see a troupe of Nayandi dancers.
Was a magnificent view for the onlookers of this beautiful pageant from their homes. In fact, these Nayandi dancers are accompanied by the Gatabera drummers.
Once one of the most aggressive elephants who scared the villagers of Galgamu, but today one of the most obedient, gentle and mild characters among our legend of domestic elephants. This is Gajaba, belonging to the Mr. Ranjit Vijayasinghe of the Moranwatta Devalia in Yakkala.
This is the Tammatam playing group and trained by Mr. Sujit Ananda.
This elephant in front of you was once the mascot of the Sri Lanka army as Kanduda IV. And today he belongs to Venerable Kanangama Narada Thero, the chief incumbent of the Sankapitti Viharaya in Kaduwela, and his name is Veera, yet again one of the most gentle elephants taking part in today's procession.
Mounted on him is an official bearing a snakehead canopy, one of the symbols of protection.
We can see the calm and composed nature of this elephant in walking the streets of the hill capital.
Such a splendid view of the Sri Dalada Maligawa.
Coming into view is a team of castanet players trained by the Sri Chandananda Buddhist school.
The castanets help all Perahera dancers to keep time as each troupe goes through their moves in accordance with various timing patterns and is a necessary part of the Dalada procession.
The Pip Matra or timing pattern by the Kandian dancing tradition is provided by the Pala potter or the castanet. The instrument is made of brass and gives out a tone that times the ring. It is one of the instruments of the Panchatura Nada.
The castanet players create that mix of tonal qualities and timing counts, reminding the people of the event and timely life of the Buddha himself.
Following there is one of the most special tuskers to us someday in the future, Sindhu, belonging to the Mahanayaka Thero of the Malvatta chapter, Venerable Tibbatuave Sri Siddhartha Sumangala Thero. Sindhu was gifted to the Mahanayaka Thero in the year 2009 by former President Mahinda Rajapaksha.
Following Sindhu, we can see a group of Pantheru dancers. This group has been trained by Uddarata Nartana Pithaya.
The pantheru or tambourines without the skin bring the purity of the Dalada procession into the minds of the people as they step across the promenade. The sound of the pantheru too is synonymous with the Kandy Esala Perahera.
can hear the unique chants that are bound up with the Pantheru dances. This is an integral part of the Kandian dancing tradition.
A special feature in the Pantheru dancers in the entire procession is that they wear the original traditional attire. Therefore, it is only in the hill capital of Kandy that we are able to witness the Pantheru dancers in the most authentic and purest form.
Two consistent participants of the Kandy Esala Perahera since 2005 with the reign of the new Devalia Honorable Pradeep Nilangadala. This is Raja belonging to Mrs. Sita Mallavasena Nayak of Hettimulla along with Punchi Banda belonging to Mr. Kitsirimewan Velagedara of Panaliya.
And now we can see a magnificent troupe of West dancers trained by Ishanta Ihalavela and Lasantha Chandrasekhar.
The most unique and most recognized of the Kandian dance heritage is the fully adorned West Natua or the Kandian dancer. The Kandian dancer's skill and the dance form have been brought to national consciousness by the Dalada Perahera alone.
In ancient times, they obtained a royal boon after having donned their Vestatua and danced for the king of Pandua's Nuara to dispel unseen inimical forces that threatened his life.
Therefore, in the procession, in order to pay their respect to the Perahera casket, the king and the Nilame, they line the path in which they tread in two files of dancers.
This dance is also accompanied by Getabera players.
These dancers observe the traditional rituals and obtain permission to dance in the procession. However, those who dance at the Maharandoli and Dalada Perahera are those who have brought them from the samsaric habit, the skill for the performance of this art form.
The origin and birth of this dance can be traced back to the times of King Pandukavaya.
And this beautiful costume consists of 64 different pieces of accessories and has become an icon of this beautiful country. Following the troupe of West dancers, now we see the Karya Korala. Coming up next is the third Kumbal Procession.
Karyakarana Korala is the second in command of the Devada Nilame and is a heritage position given to him by the royal decree.
And this is the pinnacle of this festive moment. It is the arrival of the tooth relic.
Today, the royal tusker, for the first time in the 2020 Kandy Esala Perahera, is none other than Singharaja, the prince of the Sri Dalada Maligawa elephant stables, who was gifted to the Dalada Maligawa in the year 1995 by the Singha regiment of the Sri Lanka army, and he is accompanied by Miyan Raja and Buruma Raja, also belonging to the Sri Dalada Maligawa stables, who were gifted from Burma in the year 2007 by former Prime Minister Ratnasiri Wickramanayake.
It is to be noted that this royal tusker alone is decked in the royal neck and ear ornaments, and his tusks are in golden casements.
The elephant walks on white powder. He passes majestically.
Coming into sight is the Kavikar Maduwa, or the Chamber of Versifiers.
Chamber of Versifiers is a group of poets appointed for the rituals of Sri Dalada Maligawa.
Coming into sight is a second troupe of Buddhist dancers trained by Sanjeeva Verapitiya and Peter Surasena.
It takes years of practice to become a professional West dancer, and it is not common for everybody to practice that because it takes a vigorous training and a long time.
Honoured by the Sanjeeva Verapitiya and Peter Surasena dancing troupe, now we can see the representation of the Devada Nilame next up in the third Kumbal Perahera.
The Devadana Nilame, appointed by the royal decree, is the official tasked with protecting the Dalada with his own life. And representing him today is Mr. Mahendra Ratwate, the chief trustee of Sri Vishnu Devalaya.
The honor and the respect provided by the Tun Singhale to the king for the land is given to this Devada Nilame.
Coming up next is the procession of Sri Mahanatha Devalaya.
We can see the chief trustee of the Natha Devalaya carrying the godly ornaments of God Natha to be mounted on the royal tusker, who is burdened with the sacred burden of these godly ornaments today.
Now we can see a group of Buddhist flag bearers representing the Natha Devalaya.
The first of the four Devala Peraharas is the Natha Devalaya, and it is an accepted fact that God Natha is the coming Buddha.
The Natha Devala Perahera is formed in line with traditional Buddhist worship forms that are more stately and circumspect in their own import.
These Buddhist flags reminds us again that this is a devotion for the Lord Buddha.
And as tradition, the first official on the elephant in the Natha Deval procession will be carrying the flag of Senkadagala, and this majestic elephant is Rohana, belonging to Mr. Varuna Kannangara of Horana.
Following the magnificent elephant, we can see another group of heavy citru.
This Devsi troop was led by Mr. S.Y.G. Vijayasena.
Following there is Kandula, belonging to Mr. S.M. Roshan Pathirana of Maharagama.
And on his mount is a Buddhist flag bearer. A common feature that can be seen throughout the procession is the Buddhist flag. This is because it is believed that God Natha is the Bodhisattva birth of future Lord Buddha Maitri.
we can see another troupe of Nayandi dancers.
These Nayandi dancers are trained by Vishuddhi Verapitiya.
It should be noted that the West dancers and Nayandi dancers are quite similar, except for the fact that the West dancers have the head dressing, whereas for the Nayandi dancers, they dance without the headdress.
Through the torch-lit streets of the hill capital, these performers are making their mark, to which none other festival can match.
Two of the most youthful elephants in the procession of God Natha. And here we have Arjuna of the Dikwalla Vaurukannada Rajamahawihara, belonging to the chief incumbent, Venerable Dikwalla Tissathero, along with Tharaka, belonging to the Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Mahanatha Devalia in Kandy, Gayanhi Kenda. Something quite special about Arjuna is that he was named as a tribute to the previous Sri Lanka cricket captain Arjuna Ranatunga, since he was born on the first anniversary of the 1996 Cricket World Cup.
Another troupe of Savaran dancers fanning their way to the godly ornaments of God Natha.
Indeed, we can see a variety of age in these performances, and this is a very good sign that our traditions will be passed for the future generations, without a doubt.
This is the youth, the energy and the future of Sri Lanka.
Breeding among captive elephants in Sri Lanka is not quite an often occasion, but this is one such successful attempt. We see both the mother and the son parading together, Kumari and Bandara, belonging to Mr. Kamal Kitsiri of Kottava.
As those two take a family ride, now we see the torches lighting up the streets of the hill capital to light up the way for this third Randoli Perahera.
Coming up next in the line is another group of Nayandi dancers.
This troupe of Nayandi dancers was trained by Asanka Karunaratne. Following the Nayandi dancers, now we see the chief trustee of the Natha Devalia marching in front of the casket carrying the godly ornaments of God Natha.
As usual, the ceremonial tusker of the Sri Mahanatha Devalia is once again Muthuraja, belonging to Venerable Kokkavita Vipulasara Thero of the Kandy Viharaya in Alutgama, the tusker bearing the longest tusks in Sri Lanka at the moment. Today, Muthuraja is accompanied by his sister colleague Kumari, also belonging to Vipulasara Thero of the Kandy Viharaya, alongside with Rani, belonging to Mr. Nalaka Jayasingha of Kodagama.
We can see that the magnificent elephants are robed in yellow, signifying the color of God Natha.
You can see the glamorous godly ornaments safely being carried by the giants.
And that marks the end of the Natha Devala Perahera, signifying the start of the Sri Vishnu Devala Perahera.
Now we can see the flag bearers representing the different regions of the country.
The Vishnu Devala procession takes a turn when it comes to the culture it portrays.
The first elephant as per the customs in the Vishnu Devala procession with the official carrying the flag of the Satara Koralaya, and this magnificent elephant is Suranimala, just like the name of the giant during the reigns of King Duttugama. Suranimala belongs to the Alutnuwara Sri Dadimunda Devalaya and is a consistent participant of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devala Perahera.
And this is the heresy troupe of the Sri Vishnu Devala procession.
The heavy players should be specially recognized because even the ancestors of these performers was a part of this procession when you look back at the history. Therefore, generation after generation, these players have continued training hard and evolving into these talented players whom we see today.
The music generated from the heavy instrument that comes from the instruments that are played using friction and wind is a combination of beautiful rhythms.
one of the most experienced participants of the Sri Mahavishnu Devala Perahera, Kandula, belonging to Venerable Murundiniye Dhammaratana Theru of the Mutiyangana Rajamaha Viharaya in Badulla.
And now we see the next Nayandi Dancers troupe, accompanied by a group of Catabera players.
See, unlike the other Nayandi dancers, their headgear is red.
Marching forth, biting his trunk as per the up-country tradition of how elephants should march, is Banda, fondly known as the elephant of Damunupola, belonging to Mr. Sisira Samarakun of Polgahavela. Quite a usual participant of the Sri Mahavishnu Devala procession once again since his youth.
Following the Damunupola elephant, now we see a troop of Savaram players wearing beautiful blue color costumes symbolizing the color of God Vishnu.
The color attributed to God Vishnu is blue. Throughout the Sri Vishnu Deval procession, we will be able to see a glamorous blue color.
In the Vishnu Devala Perahera, we can see a faster rhythm than the other Devala Peraharas. And these tunes of the flutes are the best in the country, I bet.
Following behind, the two sister colleagues from the northwestern province in Sri Lanka, we have Kumari and Noni of the prominent Rakkarawa family, belonging to Mr. Sarath Jayalat of Maspotha in Kurunegala. It must say that Kumari is taking part in the Kandy Esala Perahera quite after a long time, while Noni is quite an occasional participant of the Vishnu Devala procession.
Now we see another Nayandi dancers troupe accompanied by Katambera players.
We can see that they are without the headgear and they are covering their heads with a red colored cloth for this occasion of the Kumbal Procession. And it's only on the occasion of the Ramdoli Perahera that the dancers of the whole procession will be fully draped in their full costumes.
Following that magnificent performance, we can see the chief trustee of Sri Vishnu Devalaya making his way on the streets of hill capital.
Following the honors of the dancers, this is the devout moment when the godly ornaments of God Vishnu starts to march the streets of the hill capital in its blue glamour.
As usual, it is the single-tusked yet majestic Rama belonging to Mr. Tudor Gunasekara of Heyanthudwa, who is once again the ceremonial tusker of the third Kumbal Perahera in the Vishnu Devala procession. And as usual, Rama is accompanied by Vasana belonging to Mrs. Krishanti Alapatha of the prominent Alapatha Valavu in Ratnapura, alongside with Mali belonging to Mr. Chatura Vikramanayaka in Millava.
Incredible to watch how tamed these massive tuskers and elephants are and how gracefully they perform the task of being entrusted with the godly ornaments.
It can be noticed how an artistic ranhilige or casket is used during the Kumbal Peraheras, but with the Ramdoli Peraheras we will see a change in a gold casket.
And that marks the end of the Sri Vishnu Devala Perahera. Starting off is the Sri Katharagama Devala Perahera.
Now we can see the godly ornaments of God Katharagama being carried to be placed on the tusker entrusted with carrying it in the Kandy Esala.
Now we see the commencement of the Sri Mahakatharagama Devala Perahera, starting with the Buddhist flag bearer and with Buddhist flag bearers following him.
This group of flag bearers has been trained by Mr. Dilang Chaturanga Ratnayaka.
Talking about God Katharagama is believed to have travelled in a peacock vehicle and is believed to have had 6 heads and 12 hands. And also, the Hindus revere God Katharagama as a very strong and a powerful god. In particular, the Sri Lanka's literary history consists of a great array of stories and folklore associated with God Katharagama amongst the other gods that are worshipped.
The Kataragama Devalaya in Kandy had been built in the 14th century and it became more popular in the 16th century. It was dedicated to god Skanda Kumara, in other words god Kataragama. It is believed that he had 6 faces and 12 hands.
Following the flag bearers, up next we see the heavy troop of the Sri Kataragama Devalaya. And this troop is trained by James Guru Nansi. What you are hearing right now is a true beat in the Sri Lankan spirit.
The first elephant in the procession of god Kataragama is with the Gajanayaka Nilame, who is Rajitha Vijayatunga, and he is going along with Manike, belonging to the prominent Kempitiya family, belonging to Mr. Anura Kempitiya of Kulpane in Kegol. It can be noticed how the Gajanayaka Nilame in the Kumbal Perahera will be adorned in a white costume, whereas he will be changed to a much royal, colourful dress in the Randoli processions.
Following the elegant creature, now we can see a group of castanet players.
Indeed, these castanet players are the people who are supporting the other performers to keep pace in their dancing performances. We can see the young spirit being represented in the Esala Perahera today. And it is the witness that these traditions will last long in the on the grounds of Sri Lanka. Now we can see 2 officials bearing canopies on a magnificent elephant.
This gentle lady is Kumari, belonging to Mr. Asanka Vijayasinghe of Balangoda. She is a definite participant during the Devala processions in the Kandy Esala Perahera.
What we see now is unique to Kataragama Devala procession. This is a wooden stick dance performance.
We can say the Kataragama Devalaya procession is dominated with the color of bright red, which is the symbolic color of God Kataragama.
Marching to the faster rhythm, here we have Vishwa, belonging to the Mahanayaka Thero of the Sri Lanka Ramana Nikaya, Venerable Napane Premasiri Thero, who is born by the Shasanavardhana Pirivena in Mirigama. Vishwa was gifted to the Mahanayaka Thero in the year 2011.
Following Vishwa, now we see a troupe of udaki players.
The udaki is a small hand drum.
This musical instrument is a small double-headed hourglass-shaped hand drum used to accompany the songs. The speciality of this performance is that they play the instrument and join the procession while singing songs that are dedicated to the great qualities of and characteristics of Lord Buddha.
It could also be said that this Perahera is greatly influenced by the South Indian tradition as well.
Quite an interesting character we have here. The second elephant to be born at the Pinnavar Elephant Orphanage in the year 1987 to Matali and Vijaya. Her name is Sama, and Sama belongs to Venerable Uduye Dhammaloka Thera of the Alan Mathiniyarama Temple in Kirulapana.
Now we see a troupe of Nayandi dancers paying their honor to the godly ornaments of God Katharagama.
Coming to your side now is the Chief Trustee of Sri Katharagama Devalaya.
Following the ire of the Katharagama Devalia, we have the godly ornaments of God Katharagama, who is carried by the ceremonial elephant today. And it's special that we have a different character in the place. It's Vijita Raja, belonging to Venerable Millane Siriyalankara Thera, the chief incumbent of the Dimbulagala Rajamaha Vihara in Polonnaruwa, who is accompanied by Aruna of the Handala Rajamaha Vihara and Esala of the Senanayaka Pirivena in Varakapola.
And that marks the end of the Katharagama Devala Perahera.
Coming up now is the procession of Sri Pattini Devalaya. And now we are seeing the godly ornaments of Goddess Pattini being carried to be placed on the mount on the tasker appointed to carry the godly ornaments on the streets of Kandy, the Kandy Esala Perahera today.
Now we can see a troupe of Buddhist flag bearers making their way in the streets of the hill capital.
And the first elephant leading the procession of Goddess Pattini is Sita, belonging to Mr. Roshan Patiran of Maharagama, Quite a fortunate elephant who once got the privilege of carrying the godly ornaments of goddess Pattini in the year 2014.
Following Sita is the heaviest troop of the Pattini Devalia.
One speciality about the Pattini Devala procession is that this is the only female representation of the entire Perahera tradition.
This heavy troop is trained by Mr. Palatini Shankar, Mr. M.G. Sirisena and Mr. M.G. Premadasa.
Following there is the junior elephant of the historic Mahiyangana Rajamaha Viharaya belonging to Venerable Gurulavatte Dhammarakita Thero, and this youngster's name is Isuru.
And now we see the first troop of female Pantheru dancers in the entire Esala procession. Of course, this addition of female dancers adds more color to this procession without doubt.
These beautiful dancers have been trained by Miss Vindhya Kulasiri.
We can see that this entire Pattini procession, Pattini Devala procession, is in a touch of yellow, which is the symbolic color of goddess Pattini.
Following these female dancers, we see another female elephant dancer who we fondly identify as the Dangovita Athena, Manike, belonging to Mrs. Shriyani Gunwardhan of Dangovita, alongside with Rani, belonging to Mr. Richard Gonakumbura of Balangoda.
Coming up next is a very traditional dance of Sri Lanka, and that is the Goyam Natuma.
These Goyam Natuma dancers have been trained by Miss Takshila Sirivardhana, representing Takshila Kalayatane, Nyatihalagala.
dance represents the agro-based civilization which dates back to many years in Sri Lanka. And this signifies the different steps of harvesting and making the rice and the practices affiliated with the cultivation of rice.
Now we can see a group of Kulunatuma dancers.
The usual ceremonial elephant of the Sri Mahapattini Devalia, Mangala, today has paved the way for his brother colleague for this golden opportunity. And this is, as I said, Mangala, belonging to Mr. Mahinda Galapatti of Giriula, one of the most majestic elephants among our legend of domestic elephants in Sri Lanka.
We can see a troupe of Nayandi dancers approaching, following Mangala, and paying their honor and respect to the godly ornaments of Goddess Pattini.
And this group of Nayandi dancers have been trained by Mithun Bandara.
It is quite a special day today for this ceremonial elephant. This is the first time that Bibila, who is right in front of you, is carrying the godly ornaments in the Kandy Perahera in the Pattini Devala procession. Bibila was once a young elephant who was found lost in a pit in the village of Madagama in Bibila, served the army as Kandula V, and today he is doing his honors as the most majestic ceremonial elephant of the Pattini Devala procession. Today, Bibila is accompanied on his first journey with Manike belonging to Mr. H.R.S. Nishanka of Kegol, alongside with Bandara belonging to Mr. Kamal Kitsiri of Kottal.
And that marks the end of the Sri Pattini Devala Perahera. What you just saw was the conclusion of the third Kumbal Procession.
Let there be timely rains that will bring life-giving water to our fields and ensure a bountiful harvest. May our country prosper. Dalada Samidu Pihitai. Hey.